Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of A Space for You. Thank you for tuning in last week for the premiere episode. I'm really excited to be back with a special and like literally a special guest in the space today, Savannah Taylor. She is the assistant editor at Ebony Magazine, a graduate of Syracuse University, and a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and my little special. Savannah, thank you for not having me. Thank you for joining me in this space today.
Yes, Nina, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to talk with you.
Yes, yes. For those who don't know, again, I'm a graduate of Syracuse University. Savannah and I both came through the same chapter of Delta. She just makes my little Delta heart sing. She's wonderful, not just in what she does for a living, but who she is as a person. So Savannah, I'm excited to introduce you a little bit more to this platform, and we can get to learn a little bit more about you.
Oh, thank you for that introduction. I really appreciate it. But yes, let's get into it.
Of course, love, of course. So tell me today, I ask this question to every guest that stops through. What space are you in today or in this season of your life?
That's so interesting. So I am a few days away from my 25th birthday. So I feel like such like a monumental thing. But April for me is always very reflective for that reason. I try to be very reflective, very introspective, and kind of do like an assessment of how I've been as a person. That's always been very important to me to be a good person and to make sure I'm showing up as my most authentic self and showing up for people around me as my most authentic self. So I would say I'm in a very reflective state right now, practicing gratitude at all times, making sure that, I am not jeopardizing anything, not jeopardizing integrity, or things that make me happy. And I think, especially every year is a blessing, but I mean, for me, like 25 is kind of like, okay, like we're getting there, girl. You getting a little grown, girl. So I think that's just been very important to me and just reflecting on like all my years and going through Syracuse and everything else. So I'm very reflective, very grateful, and just really thinking about the future, like I always am, but just really thinking about the more tangible elements of what the future can hold in an exciting way, you know. So I think that's where I am now.
I love that. Tell me a little bit more about this reflection. Like, as you're coming up on 25, what lessons, do you think you kind of mastered, in the last few years? And like, what is, I guess, this next vision shaping up for you?
Yeah, I think for me, I'm a Taurus, so like I don't always take that to heart, but it does. A lot of those elements really do resonate with me. So I think realized and really understood like the phrase like control like what you can and then like whatever you can't, you got to give it up to like God and just, let the universe control it. That's been a very hard lesson for me. I'm very like type A in some elements and I like to be able to know what's coming next. And I think that I've learned, especially with the pandemic and like I'm sure people are tired of hearing it, but especially with the pandemic, like nobody knows what's coming up, nobody knows what's gonna happen. So I feel as though I've really had to become comfortable with being uncomfortable in that unknown and whatever comes next and not take it for granted, but not be fearful of it. I think I've realized a lot more recently that sometimes things I've grown up hearing and learning and being cautious of sometimes can manifest itself as fear. And I think for me, it's learning not to be fearful of those things, still being cautious, but learning to embrace and just not let it deter me from whatever I'm trying to do moving forward. And just I think stepping into who I am. I'm fortunate where I feel as though I've always been very centered and known who I am, and that's saved me a lot of struggle. But with that, I think it's now knowing who I am, but being able to step into that and like unabashedly be that person and not worry about trying to people please or trying to like show up a certain way, especially like in like the industry I work in, making sure I look a certain type of way or making sure that I speak a certain type of way. I'm gonna speak, we know the rules and we know those things, but I think it's, when those rules start to outweigh your personal integrities when it becomes an issue. So I've been thinking about that a lot more.
That's real. There's a lot in that I want to tap into a little bit more over the
Yeah.
course of this interview. But let's start with, you talked about some things that are just kind of like ingrained in you. So tell me like about your roots.
Yeah.
Like what about your upbringing, kind of informed like who you are today and like where you are in your career and just life in general.
Yeah, I think for me, and it's always made sense, and as I've gotten older, it's continued to make sense. I'm so fortunate that like my parents really did help me and help instill in me like a sense of self. But literally, like I've always loved being Black. Like it's not even like, just to say it, like I've literally always found such joy and such power in my identity in that way. And I think I got to a point, like literally, like you can ask family members. I was like a kid, like not even 10, talking about like loving being Black and like how that's the best thing in the world. And as I got older, I majored in African American studies, and then be working for this legacy brand that's been integral to the Black community. Like it just makes sense. Um, but I do owe that to my parents. Like obviously, so many of us have not like grown up really having that, especially in the school system. So I had parents who did that work at home, and that really translated to my outlook on the world, having a certain level of empathy and compassion for people, and communities, disenfranchised communities, really feeling that. And that's literally, I think, also why I take such pride, and it's so important to me to make sure that I'm being a good person, outside of, growing up in church or, certain rules that, Black folks teach their kids. I think it's just important at the core to be just good. And I really take pride in that. So I think that that has been so integral to who I am as a person. I grew up in Springfield, Massachusetts. Kind of growing up, I was nobody's ever heard of that city. I learned that's not true, but I think that definitely, being from a city that's often unrecognized, sometimes a lack of resources, a lack of motivation and morale, and kind of a dog eat dog sort of environment really pushed me as well. And I was fortunate to have a good group of folks who I associated with growing up as well, very focused on, just pushing the needle and just not even just getting out, but just doing well for themselves. And I think that really influenced me as well. And that's the energy that I try to keep with me in whatever I do. I'm an only child. So I think that also plays into the level of care that my parents had for me. I'm their miracle child, so I get that a lot. But I think like I really do have such great parents, and I really do attribute like so much to them as I get older and I learn and I grow and I go places. I really attribute so much to them. I really am the best of both of them. So um, I really owe a lot to them, and they're my people. So we're very tight knit, especially being an only child. And I kind of live to make them proud, not in the ways like I can't live for myself, but I really do live to make them proud. So I think all of those elements really pour into who I am.
Mm. I think that's so beautiful. Like I know sometimes when you come from like a city like you did or an upbringing, sometimes I think folks can feel like a pressure to like rise to an occasion or like do a certain things. But I think it's really beautiful when in the way that you're experiencing it, where like it just gives you like a sense of pride and like just wanting to like make the most of all that was instilled in you. That's kind of what it sounds like to
Yeah,
me.
for sure. I mean, I'm not gonna lie and say there wasn't any pressure. I think there definitely was. There was for sure, and I think that also has led into my sort of like period of reflection as well as I've gotten older and having to unlearn things and unlearn that pressure and not always have that looming over my head and on my shoulder. I think has been a really big lesson and something that I've worked really hard on. I would say really in the past like 5 years for sure. So um, yeah, that's like a really big thing. I think that pressure definitely has propelled me and it's had a lot of benefit, but sometimes some detriment. So that's something I'm also unlearning too.
Mm. I think a lot of Black women, including me, can relate to that pressure of just, yeah, just deep Negro side. And that, that pressure of like just wanting to like make the most of like all the gifts and like things that have been poured into you making the best of like your abilities in your career, your personal life. So it is a lot, but thinking like of all those things considered, how has that informed like who you are as a storyteller
Mm.
now?
Yeah, and I think it does go back to the sort of heritage that I learned about growing up. And I truly can't stress it enough. Like being able to have a deep appreciation for Blackness and Black people and understanding the richness of the stories that we hold, whether it's through like ancestors or grandparents. I remember doing an oral history assignment as a kid and like talking with both of my grandparents who were from the deep South, and just sitting with them and talking. And I know that they didn't think it was a big deal, but it really was. And I learned so much, and I loved that. And then I got older, and my dad traced his like genealogy, and we met relatives that we've never met, like out in DC and Virginia, and
Wow.
that was so cool. And I just remember those opportunities and just hearing those stories and just really being able to have that. And storytelling for me has been, of course, an art form. And it's so beautiful to be able to witness how other people interpret storytelling, but knowing it as a way to sometimes replace what has been lost for people, for it to also be what we have to reflect on and what we have, in the future. I always really do think about, 100 years from now after we're gone and, what's going to be left behind. Like we hear about these diaries and we hear about documents and papers that people had, and that's what it's going to be for us one day. So I really do take that seriously. And I think about that with the stories I'm able to tell, the documents or the notes that I write, and maybe someday somebody's gonna be going through my iPhone. So it's like just things like that I think about, and thinking about storytelling, and it really is so beautiful. And I think that from the lens of the Black community and the collective sort of traditions and heritages and lineages that we share, I think it's so unique, and it's just truly rich. And I think about that in the work that I do.
I love that. I love that. You unlocked a memory for me as you were talking about doing like the oral history assignment with your grandparents. I think I did a similar one with my grandma. I remember being in like the fifth grade or something. Why I have like the memory of an elephant, no pun intended. On that one where I can remember like that assignment, like just talking to her. She grew up in North Carolina and how she used to walk like miles and miles to school every day, like miles just to get water and things like that. So I get that. I think both of us had that similarity of like early on. I think I didn't realize it
Yes.
early on as a kid, like that is a gift,
Yeah.
storytelling, and like that it was like a viable like career path and all that for me. I thought I wanted to be a doctor, kind of growing up. But
President, I get that.
tell
I'm
me
not.
again, like, when did you know, and then like that you had this gift, and like how and when did you start to develop it?
It's so interesting that you asked that. So when I was in third grade, I remember I think it was like that was like the first time I had to write like a paper, like a real like paper for school. And they taught you like the cake analogy. You have like the frosting, then you have like the middle, and then you have like another layer, and like all the layers, then you have the bottom or whatever the analogy was. I did the paper, and I think I got like a D, or I'm pretty sure I got a D. And I was like a pretty good student, like a pretty much straight A student. And I was like ticked off. I was like, that's like not for me. And I was so angry. And I remember like seeing in red ink, red ink on like school grading papers can be very traumatic. And I saw something about like my writing skills, and like this teacher like tore like kind of not really tore into me, but she was just like she's like, you lack the basics, or you lack something of writing and like the basic construction of concepting thought or something like that. And I was like, I don't get it. And I got mad. And sometimes when I get angry, that is what will propel me to do something. That's how I learn how to ride a bike. That's how I learn how to parallel park. And I get mad and I'm able to do it in that moment. So after that, I had notebooks upon notebooks. And then once I got like computers and just files and just like writing like fictitious stories or diary entries, like writing any and everything, that I think after that period, I was like, all right, like that's something I like to do because it's a way for me to express my thoughts, especially because sometimes I'm a person like if I get too overwhelmed with emotion I can't articulate, I will cry or I would just get mad. So that was a way for me to articulate. I would write apology letters to my parents if I got on punishment. That was just the way I could articulate myself. And I found
Uh-huh.
that there was such power in me being able to do that. And sometimes to my advantage, because even my parents have admitted, like, I gave them a run for their money with the things I could write. So
All
I think it was
right. All
because of
right.
that. They were like, "Oh, like you actually kind of know what you're talking about." And I thought it was so cool being able to do that, and then just learning. I think later on what you can do with that. I wanted to be president at one point back
Mm.
when I was a kid, and then I wanted to be a lawyer because I did like to argue. I wanted to be a lawyer. Shout out to all the lawyers. I don't know how y'all do it. And then I was just figuring out what can I do where I am incorporating this love of Blackness and also the ability to write. Even to this day, I probably still don't know exactly what that looks like. I know there's a multitude of things that I hope to do in my life, but I think it was after I can pinpoint like that third grade feedback that I got, um, that I was like, okay, like that's something I know I can do. Like she can't tell me no. Like that's something I can do. And I think I can just continue to hone that over time.
Mm. Ain't that something how like the criticism or like moments like that you have in childhood, like it
Hmm.
stays with you. It's good. You know, we can use it in different ways, but I'm thinking back again to fifth grade, that was a pivotal year for me. So like I get it how like those moments stay with you and like can kind of shape that for you. But you talked about like just kind of merging like this passion for like Blackness and storytelling and how it's still like evolving
Hmm.
for you. What then, in an industry or like in a role that you're in that like can be really fast paced, how do you keep the passion for this going, like to keep finding the stories to tell?
Yeah, I think that is really the hardest part of the job that I currently have. Like literally the hardest part. Because on
Mm-hmm.
one hand, you have this sort of ecosystem that's been created now where this digital age and everybody's digital first and that's
Mm-hmm.
driving the industry, that's driving commerce, that's driving where the money is funneling to. So you kind of get put on this sort of like I call it like a fast food system. You got to bust out this content, and you just got to
Mm-hmm.
get it done. And that's been super hard for me because I'm a thinker. I'm a deep thinker. I like
Mm-hmm.
to outline everything. I like to really think about what I'm putting out. One, because that's your name, and two, just because of what I said previously. Like I think about who's going to be looking back and reading this like later on, and I would literally hate and probably roll over in my grave if somebody read something and be like that's trash or like there was no thought there. I strive to put my best foot forward every time. So I think consistently finding those stories, finding those elements that our audience finds useful and helpful and interesting can be a challenge. But luckily, because we are an imaginative people, there are so many stories in our community of folks just doing cool things and just doing and just being. And I think that's where I go to if I'm having like a writer's block or I'm not really sure where to go next, what idea to pitch. I kind of lean on that. And then the best things come out of that, and the best ideas or the best stories come out of that. So I really do draw inspiration from just what people are doing, and also making it unique. I mean, you also don't want to do things that everybody's doing, but that also is added pressure because then it's like I have to be different. I have to do this, and that's not fun. So it's a balance of both of those things.
That's real. It reminded me of something you said earlier about like maintaining your integrity within that. So like, I think it's a challenge that like I've spotted a lot. I felt a lot. Like I can remember, being a student and like writing for a paper and things like that. Like how there's just this tension between like
Yes.
creators and like legacy media. I even think too, where you want to stay current, you want to stay on top of trends, but at the same time, there is like this level of like just in-depth reporting and like storytelling and like conversations like that we're just doing now. So how do you remain like true to yourself
Yeah.
in trying to like do that dance between the two?
Yeah. A couple of months ago, I had a period where I literally did not know the answer to that, or I couldn't figure that out. And I talked with this Black woman writer. She's more than that. She's a professor. She's so dope. Dr. Tanisha Ford. She's written so many books. She's written for The Atlantic. She's a historian, professor, just fire. And I was just talking with her, and I was like, I like to write about things that are related to culture. And I like to write deeply about them. And so I've realized and been told now that sometimes the jargon or just the way in which I'm articulating it isn't maybe necessarily resonating with what needs to happen to drive that revenue in a way that's fast. And I was like, how do you like do that? And she was like, honestly, like it is a business at the end of the day. So it's important that you surround yourself with people that will remind you of that integrity and will kind of ground you when you might get that burnout or you're kind of confused in what your voice is and still finding your voice. And she kind of spoke life in the sense of like you're young, like you're still finding your voice. That's exciting and that's fun. You get to experiment, but also understanding you got a job to do. So making sure that you're surrounded by people who can uplift you, who can give positive affirmations and remind you of your voice when you feel like it's maybe being diluted in a negative way, or not even in a negative way, in a way that doesn't feel aligned with what you feel at your core. So I think that's been super important. Um, I take my relationships, my personal relationships very seriously. That's largely because I am an only child and like my family, people, stories like that was literally family for me. So um, I take pride, but I take very seriously the things that they say and the affirmations and the way that they remind me of things, and kind of bring me back to myself. So I think it's having that balance, but also just really staying grounded, which is like anything in life, of course. There are people who are going to say things always and make you feel, insignificant, or whether that's on the grounds of gender or race or background, whatever. So I really do strive to keep a hold to that center and that like groundedness for sure.
That's real. You said something about like kind of not being in touch with your true self. Like I think that's a lesson that I've been learning a lot
Hmm.
lately. I think like as women, like as we get older, I think when you're younger, like it's you might have some time to like make decisions or do things that like
Yeah.
aren't quite you, but like I think for me, like as I'm getting older, like I'm finding that like that gap between like what I really want to do and like what I'm actually doing, it's got to be real small now,
Hmm.
because like that like what it just creates internally, I don't know, for me is I would prefer the uncomfortability of like trying to get it more in alignment than the uncomfortability of like just being completely out of like alignment with my values and like my true and like authentic self.
Literally, absolutely. That's so relatable. Um, and it really is like easier said than done. It's
Mm-hmm.
so much more easier said than done, but I feel like when you're able to maybe tap, even if it's not like consistent, but when you have those moments when you're like, all right, like I'm where I'm supposed to be, or like that aligns with what I want to do or what I said I want to do, um, that feels really good when you're able to find that synergy for sure.
Yeah, that's real. In terms of like kind of coming back to your role now at Ebony and like it being the like home of like Black stories, Black media for many, many decades now, what do you see as the future of Black media now?
Mm, that's a great question.
Or
For
like
me,
what is your hope and like want for it?
yeah, my want is it's a lot of things. My want is to be able to like almost that that Sankofa sort of ideology, like being able to hold on to the past but still being able to look forward. If you can't tell by now, I've always been very serious, but and I look forward to having more fun. But I really do believe that like we really can't move forward until there is a collective understanding of where we've come from, and like I really do believe that even though there's been a little bit of awakening. I mean, we can't really say woke anymore. That doesn't mean what it used to be. But like, even though people are coming to understanding and seeing things differently and having that sort of understanding of the past, I would like for there to be more of it and a little bit more understanding and analysis deeper analysis of what that means for our present state. Whether it's hip hop, whether it's politics, whether it's science even, I think it's just so important because everything is so like cyclical and like it makes sense when we're able to lean on that past sort of understanding. So I think one want I want is more of a reverence for
Mm,
history in order to push us forward,
mm,
which is kind of cliche because at Ebony, our mantra is moving Black forward. But I genuinely want that, being able
mm,
to move Black forward and being more inclusive. I want Black media to be much more inclusive of all people, all Black people.
mm,
Um, and more understanding, and that really does come from having a deeper historical context, because I feel like a lot of people I did a interview with a documentarian who worked on the Zora Neale Hurston PBS documentary that came out.
mm,
um,
Tracy
based
Heather Strain.
Yes,
Yeah.
phenomenal. And I mean, I wish I could have included all that we spoke about, but she was essentially saying like a lot of people today, like they kind of just talk, and that's fine. But, like Zora had like the goods to back it up. And that's what she said.
Mhm,
And that's what's so important. Not a lot of people are moving with that, especially when we think about like blogging, which I love. That's why I used to
mhm,
blog, but like that even has gotten so distorted when we think about like the landscape of blogging and bloggers and
mhm,
shade, but like the shade rooms and like stuff like that. Like, there's not always the goods to back it up, and people move. Opinion is fine. People move off first thought instead of really having a deeper critical analysis. And that doesn't mean you gotta go pick up an encyclopedia. That's just taking the beat. It's like think about what you're saying before you put it
mhm.
out there, because especially now, words are more important than ever.
Yeah.
Um, People know that for sure. It causes so much pain, so much divisiveness and strife. And I think people should just take a beat, just be more critical and more not critical in a negative sense, but just think about what they're doing and what they're saying before putting it out there. Um,
Mm,
Not just more creativity. I think there is just again like we are such an imaginative people, just more creativity when it comes to the stories that we're telling and the art we're creating, and more collaboration. I think will just be so important, and I think would do us a lot of good in the future.
mm. I love that. A lot of what you said about like just wanting like putting out content that like has a larger like meaning and like intention with it. It's part of the reason why it took me so long to like get this platform off the ground. Like I think we've spoken about it many times before, and like I tell people all the time like I had this idea like for a couple years now. Like my mom and like teachers and things have been telling me since high school to like get a YouTube channel and show, and I was like, I don't know, because I didn't want to be in like I wanted it to have substance to
Yes.
it. You know what I mean? Like I wanted it to be something that like I could stand behind. And even now, as I'm like kind of working out the kinks of things, it's not perfect going on. So like, I guess what advice might you have to people who are like young like content creators or like other storytellers that are trying to like crack into this space that can be really competitive, in how to not just stand out, but like how to stand firm, in who they are, like, and what they do.
Yeah, that's a great way to position it. I think it's less of standing out. I think that would be my advice. My advice: less of standing out, but more so standing firm, truly, and knowing that you have a unique space that no one else can kind of do. You really knowing that you have a unique voice, um, and not again, like in this space where people are doing things for attention and likes and all this other stuff. I think making sure that you have a center and have a home base and a North Star, I think is so important, because so many of us don't, and that's fine. I think the difference is if you're on a quest to make sure that you're always aligning with it, or that you're always finding it, that's different than your North Star being wherever the attention is. I think that's another difference. In 2020, I put together a virtual conference for young people in my city, and that was so hard for me. Like I had this idea, similar to what you're saying. I had envisioned it. I felt like I was able to put all the things together, and it was very successful. But I honestly haven't done much with it because I felt like not even embarrassment, but like I was like, I don't know how I'm scared of like what I could do with this, and I think that's always been a fear for me, even with writing. And I think it's why this job has been so pivotal for me, and this role has been so pivotal because I'm forced to do it, but also because I've stayed away from writing. Prior to this, me taking on this role, Ebony, I stayed away from writing throughout college. One, because I had other things I had to do, writing for grades so I could pass these courses, but I was fearful of it, and there's been become so many things I've learned that it's fear for me that I didn't want to touch because I was fearful of what it would unlock or what the potential could be. And
Mhm.
sometimes people say that, but I think other people don't realize how deep that is and how like truly impactful that is on your psyche and the decisions you make moving forward. It's so real to be fearful of things that some people think are mundane because you just don't know what could come from it. And not even in the negative sense. You don't know what good can come from it. You don't know what the successes could be. Like literally like what if you do well? And that's so scary because then that comes with so much more responsibility and all these other things. And heck, other people who are trying to ride your wave, like that just comes with so much stuff. So I think it's always, again, going back to that center, going back to that North Star, identifying what kind of puts you in a place of fear to where you're kind of afraid to take that leap and take that jump, and like low key really like harnessing it and moving forward and moving with it, because good things do come out of it. Like even I use again Ebony as an example. I've been granted so many opportunities through this role. My fear of writing in recent years, I've been able to go places that I've never been to, like literally. And it's crazy for me to say that out loud. The things I dreamed of doing, I've been able to do in the past 3 years with this role. So, with being with Ebony. So, I would say really tap into the fear, find your center, and again, easier said than done, but like people are always going to talk. Like, people are always going to have something negative to say, like, always. And I think sometimes if we understand that and like, okay, that's fine, so whatever, and just don't let that influence anything else. And if it wasn't said to your face, then it wasn't said. So I think that's the biggest
Oh,
lesson. I think that's the
okay.
biggest lesson I've learned. If it wasn't said to your face and people don't have the audacity or the true like gall to say it to your face, then it wasn't said, and you can't like ruminate too deeply on that. You
Mm.
can't, because it's going to continue to deter you, and then you go and sink to a place that they are. So I think that's my advice.
Oh, I love that. It's not that serious if it wasn't real. You also said something kind of that reminds me of like in the first episode that we had here. I guess Jared was saying to like lean into your nervousness, like
Mhm.
with his advice, like as a director, producer, filmmaker. So gathering these tidbits here of like leaning into your nervousness and like embracing the fear. I think it's so true. I think like when we like there was a podcast I was listening to earlier today with Iyanla Vanzant. I know
Mm.
I'm like 40 years old, but like I love her her work and like her teachings. And
Yes.
she was coaching a caller like into her show through a tough situation she was dealing with her family. And one of the things she said that stuck out to me in helping the woman like release some of the fear and control that she was feeling about that experience was like you got to walk yourself through
Mhm.
like whatever like you're awfulizing. Like I think sometimes when we like try to not fear it, like you try to block it out your mind, but like no, I think it's okay sometimes. Like let it come up, let it come up so that you can let it go. So I think that's real. You talked a lot about being with Ebony, how it's been a great opportunity that's like stretched you and like grown you in a lot of ways, taking you to like major heights. I think I'm always in the background like that is my stretch, cheering you on. And,
Yes.
and obviously you've had a great opportunity to meet a lot of really dope people. And I know as a host, like I have my own like wish list of people to interview. Dwayne Wade, if you are
Oh,
listening, we are putting it into the atmosphere.
all that.
So
Yes.
someday that he will be in the space. If you know me well, you know my affinity for him. But in any event, who is on your like dream list of people that if you had a chance to sit down with like this?
Yeah. So I wrote down, I think, 3 names on my wish list last year two of them I brought into this year because I got to check one off. So
Ooh,
I got to interview Beyonce's mama, Miss Tina, last year,
yes, Mama
and her
Malcolm.
husband. Yeah, and I just feel like I'm just getting steps closer to her, which is like I feel like really on the top of my wish list, which is so, everybody's gonna say that, but truly, I just think that Beyonce is really just so talented, and not just in what she presents, but like her business acumen, she's so gifted. She's truly gifted. If Michael Jackson was still living, that would be somebody that I would want to interview because I mean, just so many things to pull from. Which is funny that I said that because Janet Jackson is also on my list. I think those are like the two people I really want to interview. Oprah again, just because she's achieved so much. Um, and has just done so many cool things and has opened up so many doors for journalists and folks on air and all of that. Um, yeah, I would love to interview them and just even I tell people sometimes like I'm kind of scared to meet Beyonce, not for even what I would do, but it's almost like I'll be fine, but like I think it's like I would just because I know everybody's always on her and people do act a fool with her. I just would not want to be like one of those people to be in this space and just add to that
Yeah,
mania. And like it's okay, like I can see her and just
yeah.
live in that the fact that I saw her so closely. But I really would love to interview her. And I also believe in speaking into existence. So maybe this is the year. We wrote early in the year right now, so maybe this is the
Hey.
year. But yeah, I just feel like there's so much that I think when I write stories, I also try to think about what people can learn from. Education is really across the board just really important to me too. So I try to always lean with that lens of what people can learn, what people can draw from, whether it's for their own lives or just trivia. Like I love history, literally love history, love trivia. Those are things that I really enjoy. So I think that's also why I would want to interview her too.
I love that. I love that so much. It's funny. Like I think when you like talk to high profile kind of feels like I remember the first time like I had something like that. Like I was interviewing Taraji. This was like at the height of like Empire and everything too. And like at first it's kind of like, whoa, like am I really really doing this? But I think as you sit down with people, you realize they are human, just like we
Yes.
are. Um, so I admire that, and I think when you think it, speak it, it'll come to be. So I look forward to reading your stories someday with
Yeah.
Beyonce and Oprah and Janet uh, and Janet. We'll go there. Mine would be Stevie Wonder for sure. To know me
Oh
is
man.
to know me is to know my love for
Yes.
Stevie Wonder. So
That
gotta
would be
have him there.
that's gonna happen. I just believe it. That would be so fire. So fire.
Well, his birthday is coming up too. And yeah, again, to know me is to know like my love for Stevie Wonder. Like I have literally dropped everything to go and see him in concert before. Like I missed my going away party at work before to travel and go
Warranted.
see him.
Warranted.
Yes, in concert. And I would do it again in a heartbeat because I love him that much.
Oh
Uh,
my goodness.
But before we get out of here today, what else do you want to make space for?
Oh man. I know it's still, a very hard time. So I just something that's also been very important to me is mental health. So just, thinking about, not being afraid to have those conversations and not being afraid to be open or seek out help when you need it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've had depression, anxiety, all the things, and I think I've been able to personally make space for it and not be ashamed of it as I've gotten older. And working on ways to manage it has been very important. So that's something that is very important that I make space for um, in life. And yeah, just taking mental health very seriously, especially in our community, which is still very taboo. So I hope that folks take that very seriously.
Yes, I love that. Savannah, Spesh, thank you for being in the space with me today. You have been phenomenal. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in to another episode. Come back next week for the next one. And in the meantime, be sure to engage with us on social media, on Instagram at A Space For You Pod. Subscribe to my YouTube channel as well, A Space For You. Savannah, how can people stay in touch with you?
Oh man. Instagram and Twitter, you can find me at Savannah Taylor. I'm there. Same username on those platforms. And there's like some smaller ways to connect with me based off different needs, like editorial needs or whatever. I love a cold DM, honestly. That's why I've gotten jobs. So if I can be of service in any way and I have the bandwidth for it, please feel free to do so.
Hey, I love it. Thank you. Thank you, Savannah.
Yeah.
Much love to you. And thank you, everybody, again for tuning in. Until next time, stay in peace and keep making space for you.